Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining me. Super excited to have you listening in on this podcast. Anyway, today, I want to share a conversation I had with a good friend of mine. Now, I've known this gentleman for it's got to be about maybe 12, 13 years. His name is Jonathan Sprinkles. Can't make that up. His last name is Sprinkles. Check him out at jsprinkles.com. Cool dude, awesome individual. And so Jonathan has this program called Presentation Power. He's been doing this for too many years, and he's very good at it. When it comes to stage presence, this guy has presence. I mean, he just has presence. And we were talking about his topic, which is connectology. Yes, that's his topic, connectology, right? He's the connection guy, right? It's all about how do you establish connections? How do you really, how do you just like hear that snapping sound when you connect with somebody, right? Because you're both in sync. You're both understanding each other. And that's what Jonathan does. He's all about connecting. And by the way, selling is about connecting, but really connecting is really across all borders in terms of whether it's sales, whether it's management, whether it's leadership, whether it's getting along with your spouse or your partner. It doesn't matter. Our ability to connect with other people is what makes our relationship and our network grow. We've all heard the saying, your network is your net worth, right? Or your net worth is equal to your network, the size of it. And Jonathan's all about growing that, but more important, not just about growing the network. It's all about growing your relationships, your ability to connect with other people. And Jonathan gave me this simple formula that he uses. We were talking for a good hour, and he gave me this simple formula that he uses to connect with people. And I was like, oh, Jonathan, this is powerful. It's powerful in its simplicity, and I want to share it with you. It's a 3-step process. And he says, first of all, Victor, he says, in so many words, I'm paraphrasing, you have to break people. I was like, what? Break people. You have to let them know they don't understand everything. You have to let people know that they don't know everything. You have to make them aware of what they're lacking. And you have to let them know that they have to take ownership. Now, if you think about what that word breaking means, if you think about the armed forces, let's say the Marines, one of the first things they do is they break you, right? They basically make you realize how weak you really are. And they put you through you got to do push-ups, sit-ups, whatever it may be. You got to run, 100 miles, whatever it may be. And they basically break you because they know that by breaking you, they can then rebuild you, right? They break you. And that's what he says you have to do. And this made sense to me because for those of you listeners who know about my show, Life or Debt, which was on Spike TV, you can still find it on Amazon, Life or Debt. And it was a show about where I came in to help families who were struggling financially. And my first step was to break them, to make them realize the errors of their ways, right? What they were doing wrong, but make them also take ownership and accountability and responsibility for being in that financial hole. I knew that if I could not break them, then they would not make the changes. That was a stunner to me. I used to think that if you tell people, come on, you can do it, you're the best, you're the greatest, you can make people do things. But what I realized, and Jonathan has also seen this in what he does, is that if you break somebody, you make them realize that they don't know everything, that they need help, they have to take ownership, that it is at that moment that the change is possible. Any change is possible once you break them. The next step in Jonathan's formula was to bond. Now, you've broken them. In other words, you've held up the mirror to their face and it's not pretty. They're not liking what they're seeing. But now you want to bond with them. You want to let them know that you're there to help them. You want to empathize. You want to let them know, I understand where you're at. I understand what you're going through, because that builds trust. That builds this connection. He calls that the bonding phase, right? You first break them, then you bond with them. And you make them understand, look, I know what's going on with your business. I know what's going on within your family. I know why you're struggling. I know where you've made the mistakes. Guess what? You're not alone in this situation, whatever it may be. Let them know that you can empathize, if not sympathize, with them as well. Connect with them, and then they'll start to trust you. So if I can break you, and then I can bond, in other words, get you to trust me, then the last part is I can build you, right? let's put a plan together. Let's go back to my life or debt example. Once we broke them, we bonded, we then built them. By that I mean, here's what we're going to do. We put a plan of action together. We call it the 90-day plan, right? We put a 90-day plan. Whatever resources they needed, we marshaled those in. Whatever education they needed, we got them the education. We put them in a position where they can actually now, as the phoenix, rise from the ashes. And Jonathan's formula, I never thought about till he mentioned it, but that's exactly what we did on the show. So this break them first. Why do you break them? To make them realize that they need help and that you're there to help them. Now think about a customer. Customers often think they know it all. They have all the solutions. Our job is to break them, especially in a B2B environment, that they don't know everything. They don't have all the answers. They don't know what's going on in the market. They don't understand the underlying trends. They don't know what all the products available in the market are. They don't know how to differentiate between A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They need help, and they need to admit that they need help. Now, I have a course in the Sales Velocity Academy called The Hero Story. The Hero Story really has the break, bond, and build storyline already built in. So check out the Hero Story course within the Sales Velocity Academy. Once you break them, then you got to bond with them, right? So if you can let a customer know, look, here's some of the things that are going on that you may not be aware of. Here's where you're losing money. Here's where it's costing you. Here's where you're losing market share. Here's where your revenues are decreasing. The customer can admit that and agree with your way of thinking. Now, to some extent, they're ready to bond. And you can turn it around by saying, look, Mr. Customer, I see what's happening in the market. I know what you're going through. I know the changes you have to make in order to be more competitive market. Now you bond with them by letting them know you understand. And then the build part comes in when you present your solution. Here's how I can help you. Here's how our company products can help you. Here's how our services can help you. Here's where we can add value. This is what we should do. Step A, phase 2, phase 3, whatever it may be. Mr. Customer, here's how we can help you. Now, I love this formula. Like I said, when Jonathan was talking about it, I go, it's so simple. Break, bond, build. Break them. In other words, let them know, again, I know I'm repeating myself because I want you to get this. Let them know that they don't have all the answers. Let them know that you understand their market by bonding with them, right? That's where you bond. I understand what you're going through because I see the change in the market. And the build part is when you can present your solution in such a way that's going to help them come out the other side. Now, the way Jonathan uses this with his connectology is how do you connect with people and how do you train people and how do you make them better? If you're a manager, this is a great formula he's come up with because, again, he's saying, how do you break people? If you're a manager, how do you break a salesperson? By letting them know that they're what? Failing, of course, but maybe showing them the shortcomings, training that they don't have, training that they may need, and getting them to admit that they need help. That's the breaking part. Now, the bonding part is the manager can say, look, I've been there. I've struggled to make quota. I didn't make my numbers. I know what it's like to have, top 25 clients here and nobody's buying or I'm not getting the deals I want. I'm losing. I've been there. Then you go to build. But here's what I did. Let's put a plan together for the next 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it may be, and let's figure out how to get you out of this hole that you're currently in. And right there, just that whole shift from breaking to bonding to building, that little shift right there will create a bond between you and that salesperson, if you're a manager, that you've never had before. So again, if you want to connect with people and if you really want to be viewed as a trusted advisor, you can't be afraid to break them. You can't be afraid to bond with them, but you also have to be bold enough to show them how you're going to build the next phase in their career. And that is it for this Sales Influence podcast. Don't forget to leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. Let me know what you think. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, as I've mentioned, check out my online sales training platform, the Sales Velocity Academy. 25 plus courses, 400 videos, my 13 books. So if you're serious about increasing your sales velocity, go to salesvelocityacademy.com. That's salesvelocityacademy.com. And again, check out the Hero Story course I have in there. Lastly, I want to thank you for listening. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care. Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.